am Nat.
And I'm Guy. And this is your home for everything Alberta independence, broadcasting twice daily at 12 noon and 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. On Saturday, we broadcast at 5 p.m. and we have interviews dispersed throughout the week.
Yes.
Nat pushed the wrong button, so we started a couple seconds early there.
Yes, but here we are. But before we start, thank you so much for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe because it is what helps us out the most. We also try to read all your comments live, or as many as we can. But if you feel so inclined and really want us to read your comment, you can always super chat. We also have memberships.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get into it if we can. Maybe let's... If we have any comments.
No comments.
Well, we have one comment from the guy on YouTube one.
Yeah. Says waving. So,
waving.
Way back.
Okay.
Now should we go?
Yeah, let's go into breaking news if we can.
1 second.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
And
I brought this first article up because it is the number one issue, not just within Alberta, but also Quebec. And it's starting to become the number one issue across Canada and across the Western world. Let's take a look.
Starting with from Ned Crook, says, quote, 74,000 failed asylum seekers continue to receive benefits like vision care and physiotherapy for years, costing Canadians hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think this is a responsible use of Canadian tax dollars, but what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to be leaning into this hard.
So what we do know is that there are 74,000 refugee claimants in this country living in Canada that have been denied their Canadian citizenship for various reasons, including fraud. Now, the Liberal government has continued to keep their advanced benefit status alive. This is now costing the taxpayer almost $850 million a year. I think that this needs to stop. The taxpayer is paying enough, and that money could be going to a lot of different causes that Canada needs right now. But I'd like to know what you think. So please, do you believe that spending close to $1 billion a year on denied refugee claimants is a good path forward for the Canadian taxpayer?
Well, I think
So
nobody thinks it's good. The issue you're having here is the government has set up a entire network of organizations and departments of the government that they're funneling money through that each take a cut, and money just kind of disappears. What actually gets down to the immigrant, and even the money that does get down, shouldn't be going to immigrants. It should be going to the citizens of Canada, especially in times like this. And I would say if it's not going to the citizens of Canada, at least building infrastructure at a minimum, even though a lot of corruption happens with infrastructure building as well.
And I will say, when Donald Trump came in this last time, they did those whole audits and they did the Doge thing. And I'd be very curious how bad Canada would come out in an audit like that. But I don't think they'll ever do one.
Canada would have to want to do one before we could even have something like that. I absolutely love what Doge has done. I know a lot of people will push back against it, but big changes have been made, not just with USAID, but also the funding of a lot of different NGOs and globalist networks. So my hat's off to Elon Musk, Donald Trump. I wish Canada would do something similar. Under a liberal majority government, we are never going to see that. What we're going to see is more bloat until the economy slowly collapses.
It would also be very interesting to know, for example, how many redundancies there are within the government itself or within these types of programs as well. And we know that way too many people work for the Canadian government, where it's becoming almost a never-ending loop of I work for it and then I use it and then I work for it and then I use it.
Well, that's the thing. You're talking about redundancies here. It's not just redundancies in financing, and they put so much redundancies in these programs so they can funnel money out the back door. But there's also redundancies in law. I mean, they try to make new laws. They're not even enforcing the existing one, which actually solves the problem if they did. Let's get into the next story if we can here.
Yes. Jason Levine says, quote, Premier Smith was trying to work with Manitoba Premier Canoe on a new pipeline to Hudson Bay. Premier Canoe refused to sign on, stating he requires Indigenous consensus first. We have gone from Indigenous treaties to Indigenous consultation and now Indigenous consensus as reasons Alberta will be held back from prosperity. This is not an issue with Indigenous people. Only 41% in Alberta wants to stay in Canada. This is an issue with the Indigenous elites who want to use the people to maintain a system that only benefits the elites. And I will say not only the elites, but also the system itself and the government and the federal government that uses them as an excuse to stall or move back on projects that they'd already approved.
Yeah, now we need a consensus. This is absolutely ridiculous. And you can say, well, Alberta doesn't need a consensus because it's already ceded its land. But if it wants to work with other provinces, those premiers are now saying they need a consensus, not just a consultation. I will say, at least in Alberta, they're saying, okay, we can have a consultation, but if that consultation doesn't go well, we're just going to go forward anyway. In these other provinces, they're actually saying there's an entire new system of governance, which we need approval from. And I will say, ever since this consultation idea came up and it's been challenged within the court system, now they're going after the federal government. This could cause some headaches for Mark Carney as well.
Well, hopefully, but also I think it's up to the premiers and the systems of governance of each province to decide if they want to continue to go along with this or not. And we're seeing that in British Columbia. David Eby wants to, Canoe wants to, a few others too as well. But for example, we see the Parti Québécois gaining ground in Quebec and or other more conservative parties in BC eventually, maybe, even though these conservatives are only pretend conservatives, then maybe we'll see a little bit more pushback, but I don't know.
Well, I think it's ridiculous to say we need each province gets to decide on their own. No, the citizens don't want this. The citizens need to step up and raise their voices. These are corrupt politicians in positions of power that are getting handouts and backroom deals from the federal government and then handing it over to First Nations. And it's not about premiers deciding. We really need the citizens to step up and put pressure on these premiers to say no more backroom deals.
Because it is, and we usually try to explain it further by saying it's not just about the mechanism or the consultations or even the First Nations themselves, but it is the fact that they are being used to implement, and you always say it, federalization in the long term. And as an excuse to do so, it's happening in other countries as well, where they're using other things as excuses. But within Canada, unfortunately, they've decided to go with First Nations, DRIPA, UNDRIP, etc., and go through that path and through that mechanism.
Yeah, and I think ultimately private property rights in Canada are going to quickly disappear. I mean, you might see a little pushback here or there, but there's multiple mechanisms and multiple programs that are currently happening, going on simultaneously with what's happening in British Columbia. Even if British Columbia is somehow halted, you're going to see this 30 by 30 program start to come up and build mechanisms on top of that. The federalization of Canada is going to be happening, and I'm very fearful, even if Mark Carney somehow magically steps down or did something like that and the Conservatives came up, I still see the Conservatives as trying to federalize natural resources and generally take sovereignty away from provinces. I think both parties think that's the solution, and I think that's more of a problem than a solution, if anything.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now should we go into comments?
Yeah, let's go into some comments.
Okay.
Maybe if we have some
Yeah, we
now.
do have some now.
Fantastic.
Cesare Roman says, I used to watch all your presentations. You're pushing so hard for consultations with corrupted chiefs who are only interested in putting money into their own pockets that I lost interest in watching. It's easy to push for Indigenous consultations with corrupted chiefs. Us? Or is he talking about Canoe? I'm not sure.
Well, what I've kind of been saying is, yeah, the court's going to block anything we put forward for a non-binding referendum question. So just do the consultation because the consultation isn't binding. As long as Danielle Smith does a consultation, what we can do is move forward with a binding question. If she tries to move forward with a binding question, she's personally given the excuse of they're going to block that binding question because no consultation. So we need some act of good faith with Danielle Smith to do a consultation or something at this point, just so when she puts the binding question forward, it doesn't get blocked with the same mechanism as the last one. Now, I don't agree with the consultation at all. And if we look at the law, the consultation is not required. But the way the court system wants to play these games now, if they want to play them, we're going to have to play them back. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in court for 4 or 5 years. I don't want a timeline of 4 or 5 years. Right now, it's looking like 1.5 to 2.5 years. I think if we listen to Mitch Sylvester a little bit, maybe we can shorten that timeline after the October 19th referendum. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for.
And I think the best way to kind of put what you've been proposing is lately with the consultation stuff and with Danielle getting ahead of that is to call their bluff.
Yeah.
So if they want consultations, if they want all of this to be done, okay, then Mitch, Danielle, and I forgot his name.
Jeff or Keith Wilson?
Keith Wilson. And Keith Wilson can go ahead and start doing those consultations now. So there's no preemptive stoppage and saying, no, okay, now you have to do the consultations. You didn't do them. Okay, well, it can't move forward once the second referendum is approved.
Well, also, you're going to have to realize here, they never counted the signatures. And there's a current court case within the system where they said we have to do a consultation. But because they never counted the signatures, if Danielle Smith demands a consultation now, when that court case goes forward, they can then say, oh, a consultation now has been done. The issue is resolved. The APP documents can go forward.
It's kind of to say, well, you can't give us any other excuses then.
Absolutely.
We've done everything you've requested, which we shouldn't, but whatever. So now let us move forward with asking the actual real question that we've been wanting to ask for X amount of time.
It's just a way to take to counteract the chess moves that they're making, and not that it's the necessarily the right moral move to do.
Not that we agree with the fact that we'd even have to make consultations in the first place. William Robel says, isn't the vote the consultation? Each voting member of these tribes bands gets one vote, just like every other Albertan.
Absolutely, and everybody knows this consultation wasn't supposed to come until after a yes vote was actually confirmed. But now that the court system wants to play these games, we're stuck in that sandbox unless we want to throw the sandbox upside down. And possibly we do that after October 19th. But for now, we're stuck in that sandbox. And the best thing we can kind of do to keep the chess pieces moving in our advantage, especially for after October 19th, is just call a consultation. Not that we're going to agree to anything, but the consultation is just a legal mechanism that we have to kind of do right now in order to make sure that the APP court case is in the best possible light with any ideological judge that actually sees it.
And Thomas Muse says, good afternoon, Freedom Peoples. Good afternoon. Says, I'm sure Corrupt Carney was sweating last night while loosening his tie and having a double whiskey with his hand shaking while listening to the Fringe's show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also say one other thing. We're not the only ones that saying, a consultation shouldn't be necessary, especially according to the legal framework. But Mitch Sylvester tried to call a consultation himself from 48 chiefs. And now what the other premiers are saying, oh, no. It's not the independence movement that has to call a consultation. It's Danielle Smith. So I believe Mitch Sylvester and the other leadership within the independence movement also knows a consultation moves the chess pieces in our advantage as well.
And again, gives them no excuses to say, well, you haven't done this and this and that. It's defanging one of the mechanisms that they're going to continuously try to use to stop Alberta's independence.
Yeah, and as for the other question, I did like to see all the familiar faces on the Fringe last night. We were kind of there reading all of the comments, and it seems like people are willing and ready to take action. A lot of people are saying, well, where do I actually donate? Or what's going on with this? Or what's going on with that? Or what organization do I join? And I would like to see if another one of these are done, they actually get the heads of the major organizations. So, for instance, the APP or Kathy Flett has the women's organization, or Chris Scott has his organization. Have the heads of each organization and say, these are the organizations, these are what they're doing, and try to funnel the 7,000 people, or there's even more than 7,000 at this point, into actually organizations so we can start working towards a common goal. It's nice to have ideas, but we have a lot of people sitting stagnant right now, and funneling them into already pre-existing organizations, I think, is the best way forward, at least in the actual immediate context.
Speaking of, hello, Stephen Jensen. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat and asks, what was your take on the Fringe YouTube conference last night? Productive?
Yeah, a lot of the ideas, I watch every single person that's on there, actually. Yes. So I had heard all those suggestions before because they've all made it on their individual shows. But it was nice to show consolidation and the fact that they got together. I would like to see in the future if they do something similar. Again, I just kind of said it. Put the heads of organizations there so people that are watching say, oh, yeah, I can relate to this organization, the women's organization, or the APP, or this organization. And then they can the contact information will be right with their name. And then people can just contact the organization and we get people moving in a quick manner. Yeah. I think we're ready for action, not just brainstorming at this point.
And being able to funnel the different people to the different organizations that might be most apt for them. So being able to see what each organization is about and then saying, well, for the person to say, well, if I want to donate or take action right now, well, the women's organization, because I'm a woman, or there's not a youth organization yet, but the APP, that might be the best bet right now, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, yeah, you're right about that as well. There are certain organizations already formed, like the Women's Organization, but we don't have a youth organization. And if we have the heads of all these organizations, it's going to become very apparent to the general public. What are the holes? Do we need a youth organization? Do we need a seniors organization? And if we do, maybe people will want to start that, seeing that there is a need for that within Alberta independence right now. But overall, I do like the fact that there were a lot of people getting together, and it just kind of shows everybody there is people working behind the scenes for a common goal. I just wish there was a way for the people watching to actually take action and get into these organizations, because I don't even know all the organizations. A matter of fact, after that show was done with the Fringe, I immediately contacted Jason Levine, who is absolutely fantastic. I often contact him if we need advice or we don't know where to go. And I said, is there a list of all the organizations within Alberta Independence? And he said, yeah, just go to this website. We went to it. We'll bring that up in tonight's episode, actually. But they're all kind of listed there. There's a lot of good information, and getting that out to the general public, I think, would be good as well. And we're going to make a real effort to start showing
and showcasing
different organizations, who they're for and who might relate to the people that are working within them, and what are the different organizations' goals.
What they're doing and what they're doing moving forward. And I think by doing that, we did see in the chat a lot of people saying, well, I have a suggestion. Who can I give it to? Is there an email inbox? Is there somewhere where I can, give a suggestion of, I don't know, having the billboard truck running around the city or in certain cities. So being able, if they're able to connect closer to the organizations themselves, that could maybe start that moving instead of having to build a new thing from zero, well, then that actually shortens the timeline and makes people feel like they're actually, number one, being heard, but also achieving a goal. And I think panel shows like that, I'm on one every so often, panel shows like that, I think are best to bounce ideas off of each other, but also to give people's opinions and more more geared towards that, rather than maybe expanding upon what should we do and trying to come up with a plan.
Yeah, but it's a good start. They got a panel show. They got everybody there. So maybe let's just put the heads of the organizations next time and try to funnel people to these different organizations.
Because again, we do, and that's good. It's great to see that there's so many people that are already ready to go. They want to know where to donate. What should I do now? What can I do tomorrow to start moving forward? And I think if there's already organizations that are working on it, well, let's put them up there.
Stephen Jensen sent the same question twice there.
Oh, yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen Jensen. We appreciate it.
It wasn't necessary, but thank you. Terry Labiage says, Smith is a WEFer. WEF, I'm guessing.
World Economic Forum.
Michael Drader says, good afternoon, Patriots. I'm in the mood to hand out memberships. Can we get 100 likes on this live stream? Thank you so much. And again, Michael Drader always has sometimes gives this offer of, if we get to 100 likes during the live stream, he will hand out 5 different memberships.
Yeah.
I said it weird. Sorry. Silverfeet says, federal government employees for independence. That will be memorable. I'm sure there are a lot, actually.
Well, and what happens if we can get an NDP member or a Liberal member? That just and if you
Progressives for independence.
This happens within MAGA all the time. They get members of different groups that people think there's absolutely none. And then there's one, and then people start kind of questioning, and it works in a weird dynamic when people of the Liberal Party start talking about Liberal candidate in a bad way. You can always find one or two.
Yes, because there are frustrations.
There are frustrations. We see them all the time.
Especially working for the government.
Yeah.
Stephen Jensen says to Mike is here, says you should have me on just to scare Chris. Because Mike says Chris was busy last night. We will have more. Mitch will be on next week to explain the plan. And also says smash the like button. Thank you so much. And by the way, Mike's interview will be coming out on Saturday.
Well,
finally.
And I was glad to hear that they were going to bring Mitch on, and I think they're going to bring him on by himself so he can really explain kind of what's going on. Jason Levine just had Mitch on today. That was a fantastic interview as well. I'm glad to see Mitch is being brought back into the fold. He has a lot of people that are very loyal to him. He has 7,000 volunteers that are just kind of waiting for marching orders here. A lot of them are starting to act on their own, but Mitch, Keith, all these people are going to be very important. I would say especially Mitch and Keith, because these are the best decentralized leaders that are really, really good at organizing and understand the 1, 2, 3 and how to connect all the dots.
But also on that point of the decentralized movement aspect, there's some other organizations that people might have no idea are out there or that are just forming now. So being able to push those and again, funnel people towards those also helps with the federal government and the nationalists playing whack-a-mole, not knowing really where to go at. Because I was watching Kathy Flett's interview as I was uploading it, and that's what she said that made you change your mind. That yes, being a decentralized movement makes it harder to actually pinpoint and target specific people.
Yeah, and we got really busy. We were actually going to respond back to Freedom Honey because he did send a few messages, but then your account got shut down for a few days, or there was no messaging available.
So we weren't able to.
It came back up right before the big show happened. But thanks for reaching out to us. We did appreciate that. By the time we were going to respond back, we couldn't respond back. But thank you again.
Yes. And Cesare Roman says, it's easy to push for consultation with corrupted chiefs sitting behind your desks. Open your eyes and think what giving them more power will do to Alberta.
The consultation isn't giving them more power. The consultation's actually giving them less power because you say there's actually nothing in that consultation. It's just a ceremonial thing that you kind of do in order to kind of avoid pitfalls that are going to happen in the court system and pitfalls that are going to happen not only with the APP case, but if Danielle Smith tries to call a binding question in the future. It's just a box that we kind of have to check at this point, unless we don't want to check it and we want to draw the timeline out even further than it already is. I'm trying to figure out ways to shorten the timeline. I would much rather prefer 1.5 to 2.5 years, and I would actually much prefer 6 months after October 19th and then another year as well. And I think there's options starting to emerge on how we can shorten the timeline because Danielle Smith is really trying to lengthen that thing out.
And also, again, a way to defang the fact that they're going to go after the independence movement through this by saying, oh, well, you haven't consulted. No, we can't move forward. Or the court cases are still there. Or it's a requirement that you have to. If we can do it beforehand and say, well, we already did it. Now we can move actually forward with the next actual referendum question and then independence. It defangs it. Not that we agree that the consultation even has to take place. It's ridiculous, in my opinion. But if they're going to try to force us to work within the system, then let's do it before they can actually use it against us.
Okay, let's move forward. We covered the consultation and everything more than enough right now.
Roman says, there is no legal requirement to negotiate before the referendum, but after you want to open Pandora's box, bye.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say the excuse, Danielle, and a lot of people don't know why Danielle Smith didn't call a binding question. I'm actually under the impression she should have called a binding question. The reason that she gave and everybody just accepted is, if I call a binding question, they're going to block it because there was no consultation. Okay, if there's no consultation, just call a ceremonial consultation, tick the box, and then call the binding question. That would have been the better route. Everybody seems to just be eating it up like, she had to do what she had to do to get a question on there. I think it was the wrong path, but we'll go forward with what we got at this point.
And again, consultation doesn't mean that they have any say over the actual referendum question. They just have to be consulted. And if they say no, then we can say, well, we consulted you. We're going to move forward, even though you said no. But now we know you said no. Well, that's what they want.
Everybody knows my stance on no specialty groups or classes. So, period. So the fact that I'm asking for a consultation, I actually have a very hardline opinion when it comes to no specialty groups or classes. I'm trying to play within the system right now the best we can to shorten the timeline and get a binding referendum question on there. I don't want to lengthen it out. The longer you lengthen it out, the more people that are going to be leaving Alberta, the less of a critical mass you're going to have, and the more people Ottawa is going to be able to flood into Alberta with PR status that they can then fast track to citizenship.
And they're already trying to do that.
Yeah.
Lyle Norman, hello, says, I'm with the Overweight Middle-Aged Man for Independence Organization. Maybe you can build your own and start funneling people that way. You could join. Stephen Jensen says...
Good food in that organization, though, I'll tell you.
True. Stephen Jensen says, I'm with the last of the boomers for independence, 1963. I don't think you're the last one.
No, there's
They're
plenty.
young.
You're young.
63 is young for a boomer. Michael Drader says, it's called the Unilateral Declaration of Independence. Yeah, we can just do that.
Yeah, and that's the point. And things are starting to come up. And Mitch just brought some things up on Jason Levine that I really did like to hear. And we're going to need to figure out how to shorten this timeline. If we agree to go for 1.5 or 2.5 years, we're working on Mark Carney's timeline and the Federalist. We want to shorten this thing. Mitch is bringing up a lot of good suggestions.
And I do agree, not losing the momentum is also going to be very important.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Mike says, I needed a break. Fully understandable.
We thought that
I need a break every day.
I thought maybe they banned you or something.
Yeah,
I was actually
worried.
a little concerned because every day I was like, check if Mike's back on there because.
Because I was like, why would X ban him?
Yeah.
And Mike says the campaign starts this week. Mitch will lead. The focus now is getting out and getting the message out. We can deal with the premier after the vote.
Absolutely.
But I do agree, as you say, have at least the little special forces group already looking into it before we have to deal with the premier.
Yeah.
And Mike says we can't call a unilateral I can't say that word. We can't call a unilateral Why can't I talk? We can't call a unilateral declaration of independence without the popular vote, the will of the people.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about if we do get rid of Danielle Smith after the October 19th vote. Well, there's not too many people. She's not Jason Kinney. So she's not just you're going to replace her in a snap of a finger. She's got a lot of political power. There's only one or two people that I can even think of that would be able to go head to head with her. What Keith Wilson is doing with his organization right now and his council is actually building an alternative vision of a foundation for a government. It's going to take away a lot of what Jason Kinney's concerns were and what a lot of Federalist concerns are and what a lot of concerns from UCP members are actually that aren't on the side of independence. If we put him up against Danielle Smith, I think it's a guaranteed win. It's not something we can really think about until after October 19th. That being said, we want to position him in the best possible position for that future circumstance. And the best way to do that is make sure this council is successful and that there is a clear vision for a new Albertan government.
Yeah, for when the time comes.
Yeah.
Mike Freedom Honey, says, though the non-binding question is not what we wanted, but it will be easier to convince the fence sitters. And I fully agree with that.
Completely agree with that as well.
Because you can always go at it being, well, this will just let us and allow us to have a mechanism to pressure Ottawa more or be able to negotiate better with Ottawa. And then when we get the second question, and if we already did the consultation, so it's a shorter time frame, well, then you already have them in that mindset of voting for yes, independence.
Yeah, and I was watching the show last night, and John talking to Albertans was saying going out, having conversations in parks, maybe not having tables so you can try to walk away or something like that if something does go wrong. The crazies are going to come out if you advertise the locations. That being said, I will say this. You don't ever want violence to happen, but you want to make sure cameras are always on. So if that violence does happen, you have repercussions for, number one, a prosecution, and you can show that you did absolutely nothing wrong. But number two, Billboard Chris, we used to volunteer with him, built his entire career off of those few violent circumstances that did happen. That's how his social media blew up. That was actually the secret to how he got so big. I like the messaging and things he was doing, but we would look at his social media and things like that, huge numbers after an incident would happen.
Not that we're saying we want an incident to happen. Or
I don't want an incident to happen, but make sure we have cameras when we have these conversations. So don't go out by yourself. No. Try to go out in a minimum of pairs, if not larger groups.
Yes. Because again, you never know what kind of crazies there are out there and what they're willing to do. Michael Drader says, it's the will of many people for the unilateral declaration of independence. Why can't I talk today? But Mike says, but not the majority. And funnily enough, William Robel comes in and says, as an American, I would have to disagree with Mike about the unilateral declaration of independence. During my country, a third supported independence, a third wanted to remain with the crown, and a third were apathetic.
Yeah, and there's actually two things that need to happen with Danielle Smith right now. Number one, I still hope that interview is open and she's going to go on the fringe and he's actually going to ask the hard questions that need to be asked. Why didn't you call a binding question? She's going to say, because they would have blocked it, but we need her to answer that publicly. And then when she says, okay, what were they going to block it for? She's probably going to say, because of the First Nations. And then we need to say, well, why don't you do a consultation now? So after October 19th, once we win, then you can call a binding question without that being a problem. And then see what she answers to that. We got to start moving the chess pieces around now, not later.
Yes. Mike Freedom Honey says, focus on the plan, winning the populace over, then you can unleash hell. True, and it will be. Michael Drader says to Mike, shh, don't burst my bubble during my deliveries. Okay, now let's go into Alberta Stay Free.
Yes,
Yeah, let's go into Alberta Stay Free, and then we'll continue reading all your comments.
Sweet home Alberta, where the roots run deep and the money trees grow.
And I think we're going to start with, was it Justin Trudeau I brought in here?
No. Something about Alberta.
Oh, maybe.
From Alberta Radio.
Okay.
Alberta Radio says, Alberta, it's time to come together.
I got the wrong notes in front of me again. This is 2 days in a row that I did it.
On May 31st, Albertans from across the province, I'm not on frame, from across the province will be rolling into Red Deer to show unity, pride, and strength for Alberta's future. Edmonton staging area will be at the 266th Street, 266th Street, and 114th Avenue. Akeson leaving at 12 noon, and the Calgary staging area from the iFly in Deerfoot City leaving at noon as well. Both convoys will meet at the Red Deer Cruisers at the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame and Red Deer Highway 2 at 1:30.
And on the map down here, it actually looks like there's quite a few different starting points that they're all going to meet in Red Deer. So this looks fantastic. We're going to advertise it every single day, both the morning show and the night show leading up to October 31st. If you're wondering how to get involved, this is a great way to get involved. This is a great way to get started. There's a lot of like-minded individuals, and hopefully people will be able to direct you from here.
I think the 31st is a Sunday, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So, and again, I like that it's like converging. Everybody's coming together and converging and having that show of force and of support as well, which is important right now, especially when they're saying, oh, it's just a few people. Oh, no, it's not.
Well, and I did there were some good suggestions last night on the Fringe from all the different content creators. One of them, I think Jason Levine had some great suggestions, but one of them was to counter message, what is Lukaszik's organization called again?
Forever Canadian.
The Forever Canada organization. Make counter arguments, but using their kind of layout,
their marketing,
use their marketing so it looks like their
really
marketing,
like
but with counter messaging. I absolutely like
forever
that.
in debt, forever paying taxes, forever taxed, forever not buying a house, etc., forever renting. I like that one too.
Yeah, and sexy separatist. I like that idea as well. It was funny, it was catchy, and it just kind of leans into it a little bit. I know we're trying to get away from the word separatist, but sometimes you just want to lean into it, and with a good meme marketing campaign, could be great.
But I do love even maybe having like the lawn signs that they were so proud of giving out, but with the counter messaging. But that look very similar. Obviously, not getting into copyright issues. I don't think anything they're doing is copyrighted, but still, you don't want to get into issues with that. But using the same color scheme and the similar fonts, etc., and using those lawn signs, because maybe less people would be. Because I know a lot of people were saying last night that maybe they don't want to put out a yard sign or a flag because their neighbors, they might not want to have to deal with their neighbors doing XYZ, or because they don't want to be targeted. If you're using a Forever Canada look-alike, then it's way less likely that those same people would go after you until they read the actual message.
Well, and I'll also say Freedom Honey had a great idea of the binder. I didn't necessarily actually like the binder, but they went back and forth with that. And I think that binder idea morphed into an app. And I think the app is absolutely fantastic. It's easy to access, and it's going to be easy to update as well. So, I don't think we need the redundancy of the binder and the app. Let's move forward with the app. Apparently, we have a few people within the organization that know how to make that.
But I did agree with other people in the comments that said, well, older people might not know how to work an app, so having it written down is actually a good idea.
I would actually disagree with that, because with the app, what you can do is you can have a section where it prints itself out, so you can print. You can print it out as well. Maybe they don't know how to print it.
Maybe they don't have a printer. You need physical stuff too.
No, you can have physical stuff, but you're not going to be able to distribute all that necessarily. So having a way that you can print it out, and then having having printed copies as well is a fine idea. But they're going to need to be updated throughout the thing. We're also working on the idea of making edited videos. We're going to cut down the morning show eventually once this new equipment arrives that we kind of ordered, and we're going to lean into specific subject matters like the CPP. Is there a legal path to leave Canada?
Questions that we've seen over and over again, both with our show and people that comment for us, but also with other shows and other questions that we've had. And when we interview certain speakers, what they've told us, like Kathy Flood, for example, and Freedom Calendar, thank you so much for the $10 super chat.
Thank you.
Saying, I will be among you. I will be among you in that convoy. Say hello and shake hands with my autistic internet friends. Woot woot. Go say hi to Freedom Calendar. He's really nice.
And if you're not subscribed to Freedom Calendar, you need to do so. He's the man behind the magic, behind the camera, behind the audio. How we get all these events and we get live coverage of a lot of this stuff is thanks to Freedom Calendar. So if you're not subscribed to his X or to him on YouTube, I highly recommend it. He has great interviews almost every single week.
And he's incredibly important because he's the one documenting history.
Yeah.
for the history books that are now online. So thank you so much once again to Max or Freedom Calendar. Okay, now let's go say hi to him during the convoy.
And there was one other thing we were just kind of talking about with the app or with the binder.
Okay.
If anybody's ever watched Stephen Crowder, he did an informational video on how he did the Change My Minds. He would basically have a binder with every question and every answer, but he would pre-memorize it. And that's how he would never get caught. And Ben Shapiro said he did the exact same thing. So there's a method to the madness if you're going to go out and do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that
watching his videos,
is that one still up or no?
I believe it is still up. Yeah.
So
maybe we'll find it and repost it just so people in Alberta Independence can have that resource going forward.
True. Okay. But we also saw this, and we continue to see clips coming out from the debate between Keith Wilson and Jason Kenney. John Tompkinson says Alberta has the opportunity to end Ottawa's political and policy economic embargo. The real landlocking isn't the Rocky Mountains, it's the Laurentian Mountains. Keith Wilson nails it again, saying, imagine how much growth our economy would have if we didn't always have Ottawa with its knee on our neck and its hand on our wallet.
Well, and I'll say the debate finally came out. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. The entire thing's on there. It was absolutely fantastic. I think Keith did a phenomenal job. I've watched a lot of what Kenny's said with his interviews and other things, and it's just like an echo chamber. Same old thing. Even if it doesn't make sense, he's just going to say it, but he's going to try to say it with conviction so the non-educated will believe it. Now's the time I wanted to play a couple clips on today's episode because we've been waiting for this debate to come out for months now.
Yes. And again, this is on the Aristotle Foundation's YouTube channel where you can find the entire debate now.
So Alberta is not landlocked by the Rockies. We're landlocked by Ottawa. We're embargoed. We're embargoed. It's a policy landlock. And the point about we continue to grow. Imagine how much growth our economy would have happened if we didn't always have Ottawa with its knee on our neck and its hand on our wallet. So,
well, and I'll say another thing about the growth. A lot of the growth the federal government intentionally puts to eastern provinces when it comes to manufacturing and other things. As soon as we get our independence, we're going to build sectors that aren't going to be stripped from us or are going to be given advantages to eastern provinces. I could see a real economy emerging far outside of just natural resources once we get our independence.
Because you're able to prioritize the actual growth instead of pleasing either the Laurentian elites or their masters, because they have masters as well. And also from the debate, John Tompkinson says, in the Alberta independence debate between Keith Wilson and Kenney, Keith nails it. Ottawa ignores the court rulings. They don't care. Canada's institutions, with all due respect, are corrupt, and we've all witnessed it. And I think many have become just lulled and complacent to it, even though they know it's happening. They don't want to see it.
From Safeway? No, because Ottawa ignores the court rulings. They don't care. And my friend points out about be careful before you tear down the fence. And he also points out about the institution, the glory of the institutions. Canada's institutions, with all due respect, are corrupt. And we've all witnessed it. We've all witnessed it. And it's tragic and it's sad. And you know whose hearts bleed the most when they see it? The veterans. From Safeway? No.
And I will say this, the Aristotle Foundation did a fantastic job on most aspects. The moderator wasn't the best. He kept losing track of how it was supposed to work. But the important thing was the sound and the sound and the video quality was absolutely amazing. I watch a lot of debates, and when people try to do these things live and not just online, it goes awry most of the time. Tim Pool has done some debates. They did not come out good when they're live. They're much better when they're in the actual studio.
Even your boy, what's his name?
Andrew Wilson.
Even his, when he tried to do a live one, it also kind of fell apart quite a bit.
A lot of money.
With Anna Kasparian and what's her face.
Yeah, a lot of money was put behind the World War debate that was hosted by Andrew Wilson and a few others, and it did not work good live. I'll just tell you that. That being said, they did a phenomenal job with the audio and video, so I was very pleased with that.
But back to the corruption of Canada that Keith is talking about there. Yes, most people either have rose-tinted glasses or cognitive dissonance, or they just haven't realized that they live in a very corrupt country. But the way I used to try to explain it to people here in Mexico, because here everybody knows the government is corrupt, nobody trusts the government, and everybody hates it. And we have this very healthy mistrust of the government because it's plain and clear to see how corrupt they are, and to find that information out, nothing gets done about it, but whatever. However, in Canada, the way I would try to explain it to my Mexican friends was, they're so corrupt. Canada is so corrupt, and the corruption is so big that it's easier to hide in plain sight. And they've made sure to be able to hide it because the corruption is at an even higher level and an even deeper level where you can't really see it day to day.
I agree with that completely.
But now we'll continue with your comments. Michael Drader says Fidel Jr. Is Fidel Jr. is still a thing?
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because Canada is becoming Cuba more and more each day. And now the rumors of Trudeau are swirling back that he's Fidel's son again.
Yes. Sean says you have to do a consultation. I can already see the Remain campaign talking points about South Africa, Alberta, with First Nations being under Alberta apartheid. They've already started trying to do
They're going to try a million things. I think somebody else that had a great point. God, who was it that said it? Oh, I think it was maybe Jason Levine again. He said he was studying Brexit and what they did. And he said basically...
I think Corey Morgan? No.
No, it was actually Jason Levine because he said it again this morning on his show. And what he was saying when he was studying what happened with Brexit is the side that wanted to remain within the EU basically hung themselves over time. And the other side just clipped a lot of what the other side was actually saying. And that's a phenomenal way to do it as well. And we have a ton of shows that do clips and things like that. So I will say another thing because we kind of got away from the subject for a minute, but when we do start doing more edited videos, I was looking around within Alberta Independence, and a lot of content creators do a lot of live shows or they do it without takes. There is nobody that does really scripted or edited videos. We actually used to do that with our Spanish channel. I don't necessarily like doing it, but I think it's something that would work very good for educational videos. So that's why we're going to try to lean into that again. It does take a lot of time, but I think it should be fairly effective, especially if we can get the top 10 questions people are kind of asking about Alberta independence and why it's good to leave Canada. A lot of what is actually on the shirt the Fringe sells on his show are fantastic as well.
Good. And by scripted and edited, just being able to have more concise and more like all the information in a shorter span of time.
It's hard to bring up statistics off of the top of your head. We actually have a teleprompter.
Unless you memorize them.
We have a teleprompter. We never use it. We used to use it for statistical videos and stuff like that. It worked very well, but there was a learning curve. But now that we've already learned it, we should be able to go back to it fairly easily. And I think it would be a huge asset for Alberta independence. The first 2 or 3 videos might be a little shaky while we get our legs under us again, but
because we want to be able to have a video. If someone says, "Well, what will happen with the CPP?" we can be like, "Oh, we have a video about that, about what happens and what the CPP actually is doing within Canada," which is not a good thing. And it's just a 10-minute thing that somebody can just watch and be like, "Oh, okay, now I get it."
And then have the concise version, which is a short that leads to the longer video. Yeah. Because a lot of non-politically engaged people will see the short and they say, interesting. Yeah. And then if there's a link
I didn't know my CPP money is being invested in India. Now I want to know more. Michael Drader says, what if I hung a Canadian flag upside down? That could also work because, again, you're still using the colors. So they can't go after you. Teresa Freedom says, wow, will be so great to see you again, Max. It's going to be a great time. Yes, again, Max is awesome. And I think yesterday was his birthday, so happy birthday, Max.
Happy birthday, Max.
Because I remember I saw the super chat he sent yesterday to the Fringe. Unacceptable Fringe. Sean says, Michael, you don't need to even do that. Fly the old flag. I don't know why Canada changed it. Oh, yeah, that's true. You can fly the OG flag. Because Pierre Trudeau decided that they wanted a more multicultural version that wouldn't represent anything that Canada originally used to be. Teresa Freedom says, did you see that Calgary had around 50 vehicles in their cruise last Sunday? We are going to wake up Red Deer and turn the city blue.
Absolutely fantastic. And hopefully, it looks like there's a big event planned at the end. I really hope there is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's like, we really need to start planning different things. And I really liked the brainstorming that was happening last night on the Unacceptable Fringe. The next time, though, I really hope they have the heads of all the different organizations and we just start funneling people in there because in the comments, again, a lot of people are ready to do something. They just don't know what to do. Yeah. So if we can kind of highlight the best organizations they can go to and be effective, that would be great. And I mean, all of them, all the ones that exist, because again, one might resonate with someone and the other one might resonate with someone else. Yeah. Sean says, global, new, world, order, masters, nat. That's how I have to say it now. Yes, Sean. Teresa Freedom says to Mike, one of the
RL rollouts in Calgary has created, or no, one of the RL in Calgary has created an AI app that you can ask questions and it will give you an answer and links to the document to reference. That's great, actually.
Yeah, and there's different ways to do AI. There's open AI, and then you can have a closed AI system where you actually feed in the information and it only gives answers based on that information. Because I know a lot of concerns came up about using AI. So maybe looking into more of a closed AI system. I don't even know if that's possible. I'm just shooting the shit here and giving some suggestions that maybe work its way up.
Sean says Trudeau's girlfriend is an alleged grape hero, is how I'm going to have to say it. She likes to rub things on people.
Yeah.
Sean says, Thomas, the gun thing sure seemed to happen very suddenly. Again, I'm going to have to go to the other comments because some of them don't make sense until I read the first one. Mike says, there's a plan for the premiere. I'll message you after the show.
Oh, fantastic.
Ominous.
We'd love to hear that.
Yes.
And I've seen Mitch Sylvester talking on Jason Levine's show, and I like what a lot of he was saying. So maybe what's going to be suggested has to do with some of that.
Mm-hmm. Freedom Canada, Max says, wood, wood, honk, honk. And William Robel says, howdy, Max. Max's birthday was yesterday, too. Yes, exactly. Happy birthday, Max, again. William Robel says, Kenny's only argument to remain in Canada was fear. And hearkening back to a time that doesn't exist anymore because they've purposefully erased it and destroyed it.
Well, and he used fear in just ways. Airplanes will no longer come into Alberta. There'll be no flights the next day. You won't have a currency. You won't be able to buy anything. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And that is what people are going to believe if we let them synth the narrative. That's why what Keith Wilson is doing with this council and a lot of business leaders making these white papers to address all those stupid concerns are actually building the foundation of an alternative government that people can see, kind of feel, and can kind of believe in. And that's what we need, especially for the steps that come after October 19th, and even to build confidence in the people leading up to October 19th.
And I would even say, yes, they're stupid arguments, but the fact is that they are very effective in planting seeds in people's heads. So when they start thinking about Alberta independence, then the seed, Jason Kenney comes up and says, oh, but the planes, you can't land a plane, and this will happen, and no passports, and this and this and that.
Okay.
So that's why we have to counter them with actual real information, being able to say, no, we actually have the facts here. They're just trying to fearmonger you.
Let's go
one
now.
One more
more
from Mike.
And then we'll go to
Mike Freedom Honey says, I'm pushing to get all the info in an FAQ book to be used for references. The the app. It's the same thing. The app and QR code would supplement that. This is so the message doesn't get screwed and everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, and you know what? That is also going to be good for Mike because that's a fantastic idea. But the other thing I didn't see brought up is once that's made, channels like ours that are going to make educational or informational videos, that's going to be a great resource, not for only us, but for other channels to make sure everybody is on the same page and the same messaging is getting out there.
And towards the end or at the beginning, say, if you want to learn more, scan this QR code.
Yeah.
It takes you to an app where you can get other questions answered similar to this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Thank you, Mike. Now let's go into Alberta politics.
He doesn't discuss federal politics. He only concerns himself with Alberta's independence.
And starting with
They need to understand that Albertans are done. We're leaving, and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
What's happening?
Oh my God, Nat.
We're in Alberta Politics, not Alberta Personalities. I pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry. But starting with CBC Watcher says, quote, CBC kicks off the day with back-to-back sucker punches against Danielle Smith from Stephen Guilbeault and David Eby. Very weak punches, I'm guessing. CBC's Alberta coverage largely consists of repeatedly airing clips of the NDP and Liberal politicians and pundits bashing Smith, seemingly aimed at stoking resentment towards moderate Albertans while projecting institutional condescension.
Yeah, and if they want to eat their own, let them go ahead because Danielle Smith is actually the best they got on the Federalist side. That's extremely easy to see at this point. Even Pierre Poilievre was forced to answer a question about Alberta independence and the Liberal government, and he doesn't know how to walk that tightrope, how to make appropriate talking points like Danielle Smith does when it comes directly to Alberta independence. So the fact that they're pushing back on her, what we need to realize is just because they're eating their own doesn't mean Danielle Smith is on our side.
Well, former Liberal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault is revealing more about why he decided to leave politics. Guilbeault says the Carney government's energy deal with Alberta is a big factor and Ottawa's willingness to work so closely with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
Danielle Smith would probably never admit this publicly, but when I was Environment Minister, I renegotiated with her a more stringent carbon pricing system in Alberta. She never implemented it. And we came to that, we started seeing that in late 2024. I'm skeptic that she will this time around. She has not proven to be a very reliable partner on these issues over time. In theory, the MOU was supposed to help with the referendum. She has decided to go ahead anyway. So I'm puzzled why we would put so many eggs in the basket of a premier who has not shown to other provinces, frankly, and the federal government and Canadians that she can be a reliable partner.
And I also, but you can pause it for a moment. I also think part of this is actually strategic. They want to put question marks around Danielle Smith saying, oh, she's not a Federalist, she's not a Federalist, to convince some people within the independence movement to start trusting her. We can't trust her at this point. It's obvious. We need to work. We need to move forward with the question we have now, but we have to understand whatever comes after October 19th, we cannot trust Danielle Smith.
Also interesting that he basically said it out loud there that the MOU was supposed to help with the referendum thing. So, but it doesn't, because it doesn't work.
Oh, now BC's Premier David Eby has been a vocal critic of Danielle Smith and her energy deal with Ottawa. He's also weighing in now on the Alberta separation debate. Eby spoke with Matt Galloway on The Current. Eby says he isn't sure what Smith's true intentions are.
But you had made comments about people separatist people.
I was watching this earlier when I was grabbing it. Does he look like a pug or something? Some kind of dog?
It does look like a basset hound, like a sad, like one of those dogs that are always perpetually sad.
Just something about him, especially there.
People, separatist premiers. Do you think she's a separatist? Do you think Danielle Smith is a separatist?
Well, I struggle to know for sure, to be frank. When I speak with Premier Smith, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, she says very clearly, the campaign remain. I mean, I think that's unfortunate language given the Brexit history.
She said she was going to vote to stay.
Campaign remain, vote to remain in Canada. And so we put on our FIFA jerseys, the Canada jerseys all together, stood together. But also she's really advancing this referendum question. The courts said, no, don't go ahead. You haven't engaged First Nations. There was an opportunity to take a step back. She's pushing the question still. And, we had a musician at the event who was introduced as a friend of the premier. He had a song about, very popular, I think, in Alberta, and but ambiguous about his position on separation, saying a song about independence being in his veins. It's just hard to really grapple with exactly, and maybe that's the challenge in Alberta right now. But I just,
and they're all working together at this point. We've seen the Conference of Western Leaders. Danielle Smith literally bought David Eby some cowboy boots. These boots were made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. They're going to walk all over Alberta if we let them do it. So the citizens need to stand strong. Realize we no longer need the politicians. What we need to do is create the change ourselves. And the rest of Canada needs to learn from Alberta's example, because these politicians are playing games, and you're never going to get real change as long as you're willing to play their games.
Eeyore.
Oh, Eeyore.
He looks like David Eeyore. That's what
David
I'm going to
Eeyore?
His name is David Eby. David Eeyore.
Oh, okay.
Kind of looks like Eeyore.
And then, I guess that goes with Winnie the Pooh, which is Xi Jinping.
True. Best of friends. Real Mr. Bench says, quote, Mark Carney keeps telling Alberta the choice is not theirs to make. Now, Bloc leader Blanchet is spelling out the problem for him. If Ottawa tells Alberta it needs permission to decide its own future, Quebec hears the same message. Ottawa decides. Carney thinks he's shutting Alberta down. Blanchet may have just shown him how badly that can backfire.
Well, and the Albertan politicians need to be shouting this from the rooftop, yet it's all the Quebec politicians. The girl is standing right behind him with the red hair. We showed her yesterday in multiple clips, screaming it from the rooftops. And this is what I like to hear. But you know what? I'm not hearing it from Alberta. And that's why we can't trust these Albertan politicians right now.
Well, but also because Quebec has a lot more cover that they can use, because Ottawa seems to be wanting to please them, but not Alberta.
The events of the referendum in Alberta will scare away Quebec voters in the upcoming Quebec election from choosing a sovereigntist party like you.
If the Prime Minister of Canada keeps telling people in Quebec that the choice is not theirs to make and that he will be the one to be the referee in this, I believe he will tell many Quebecers that they should indeed make their own decisions for themselves and by themselves.
The events of the referendum in Alberta.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. But I actually like the girl with the red hair behind him. And we showed 2 clips from her yesterday. Really hard nose on the 50+1. And this is a serious, serious issue. If we let Mark Carney try to weave this web, and he does over the next 1.5 to 2.5 years, we're going to be in real trouble here. We need to shut this down now.
And lastly, on that same side, Western Standard says Pierre Poilievre is asked by the Western Standard reporter, Wally Tamtam, if he believes Stephen Guilbeault's rhetoric fueled the independence movement in Alberta.
Has Guilbeault's career fueled Albertan independence?
I think he has fueled a lot of resentment, justifiable resentment, from people who can't work. I met people in rural Alberta, two gentlemen living sharing a trailer, even though they're both qualified and licensed tradesmen who used to make six figures. They had to move in together at age 50 because they can't work in their own sector. So the Liberal government, because they implemented all of the prescriptions in Mark Carney's book Values, the net zero agenda, shutting down oil and gas, have impoverished a lot of people, have weakened our economy, made it far more dependent on the United States. Mark Carney obviously founded the Net Zero Alliance, which was...
And it's like... he's impoverished a lot of people. He's done this to a lot of Canadians. He can't even let Alberta come out of his mouth right now. And the question was about Alberta and Albertans. And if Stephen Guilbeault's rhetoric fueled that, and he's trying to make this, he does not know how to walk the tightrope like Danielle Smith. So it's going to be interesting if he actually campaigns on the ground in the summertime. Mm-hmm. Danielle Smith is much better spoken as a federalist, and I don't like her. And I'm not liking Pierre at this point either.
A coalition of banks who wanted to defund and destroy the oil and gas sector. And Mark Carney continues to ultimately implement that agenda in practice, even while he creates the opposite illusion on television.
Okay, and we can leave it there. And we can already see he's going to have a tough time with this rhetoric, because everything that he preached and the change that he wants is what Alberta independents and the citizens of Alberta are actually offering themselves right now and saying, no, we don't want to work through the politicians anymore. It's just broken promises.
But now let's go into your comments, and then we'll head into Alberta Personalities, the button I pressed wrong earlier. Sean says, need a flag to gather around. The Alberta flag is too busy. Oh, Sean, they're going to come to the U.S. for you. Should adopt the proposed 1963 flag with the green borders and that cute beaver in the middle. Just a thought. Gotta run. Have a great day. I would love to read the comments to that Sean just said from Alberta's, because Sean, you might want to stay in the U.S. Michael Drader says, boots were made for walking. I always think of the fembots from Austin Powers. Does that mean EB has machine gun jumblies? Maybe. Tracy Freedom says to Max, you might want to check out Dwayne Bratt. He said he would like to debate any separatist.
Oh,
Dwayne Bratt.
Take a screenshot of that name so we have it.
I'm going to have to do it here.
And I will say this about the blue flag. Too much time and effort's been invested in that thing now, and it is representing freedom within Canada. And the Canadian flag is representing this National Socialist Communist elbows up idea. So the blue flag versus the Canadian flag is really going to work for us as the elites versus the citizens. And both flags right now, I think, hold real meaning to each group. So I think it's going to be good going forward to actually use the Alberta flag.
William Robel says, Canada doesn't want to become Cuba. Trump is about to take Cuba. Now, I'm sure it looks less as attractive for all those communists that continue to say that it's the best experiment in the world for communism. Thomas Muse says, there's also a reason they want Alberta people's guns, because Alberta is the Texas of Canada. Oh, then that was the comment about the gun.
They don't just want Alberta's firearms. They want all of Canada's, and they're going to be coming for them. Federalization is coming. I talk about it every show. Nobody seems to believe me because I watch every single other content creator, and what they say is the pipeline's never going to get built. The natural resources contracts are never going to be given out. But you see David Eby, you see Canoe, all saying they want to work towards pipelines and natural resource contracts along with Danielle Smith. It's a federalization that's happening, but they're slow marching it while they build the mechanisms to make sure everything is federalized.
Mm-hmm. Freedom Calendar or Max says, all my videos are rendered and edited in real time. I just need to capture the video and audio feed, and everything is blended in on my gaming laptop.
Oh, fantastic.
Cool. DeBilver says, just ordered me 2 Alberta flags. Great.
Oh, great.
And Freedom Calendar said, Max says, I'm clipping videos from the Saskatchewan Prosperity Project Summit from Saskatoon last Saturday. They're bold.
Oh.
And I'd love to see those too, because again, we do want to start talking about that.
Well, and Mitch Sylvester said, I can't remember if he was at a conference or what it was, but he said a First Nations individual got up there and he had an absolutely amazing speech saying, if Alberta doesn't get out of Canada now, Canada is going to turn into the reservation for everybody. Mm-hmm. And he said that's coming out in a little bit, so I can't wait to watch that.
Thomas Muse says these globalist clowns have no choice but to fight Alberta independence because they fight for their lives.
Yeah. And there's more talk about Canada moving closer and closer to the EU. I got another story. I can't remember if it's on the day show or the night show today, but man, they are pitching this hard.
Freedom Calendar says, I'm working with having and streaming debates between Forever Canadians and Alberta Independence folks. And that's what I've been also trying to scream from the rooftops. That should have been done for a while ago. But the problem is the Forever Canadians will never win a debate.
You're not going to find anybody from that
That's
side.
the thing.
And that's obvious. That's why, as much as I hate Jason Kenney, my hat had to be off to him for at least showing up for both debates, even after he lost the first debate. It's going to be hard to find anybody to show up. And you do want people to show up that aren't these big names like Jason Kenney. It's going to be hard to get Jason Kenney to do more debates and do debates on smaller shows, but we can get no-name personalities that are on the Forever Canada side to do debates. I just don't think they're going to be willing to do them.
But then again, Teresa Freedom did say Dwayne Bratt, so maybe...
Yeah, so we have one name, Dwayne Bratt.
Yeah, the Billboard says Danielle is also part of the WEF.
Yeah.
And Lutsko says, just stop giving Kenny a voice and airtime, ignore him totally. I think he would self-implode.
Yeah, but I also think he's a useful idiot because, like we just kind of talked about, it's really hard to find people to even do debates. Debates can be clipped, and it's put in a long format which people can really digest to see both sides. So he's a useful idiot in that way. So keep him around, just like keep Ninchi around. Every time he opens his mouth, same with Carney. They just push more people towards independence. And Jason Levine made that research analysis about Brexit and said, really what the other side did was just let the politicians keep running their mouth and they clipped it. So
speaking of, let's go into Alberta Personalities.
Yeah.
For real now.
But they need to understand that Albertans are done. We're leaving and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
And starting with, oh yeah, I thought this was the wrong one. Starting with from Mara Newfel saying Fidel Castro's daughter spoke to Katie Pavlich about the Justin Trudeau rumors. The only thing I can say is that his mother used to visit the country very often. Margaret Trudeau and the Cuban dictator were close personal friends.
For years, we've heard rumors that Justin Trudeau, the former Prime Minister of Canada, could be your half-brother. What do you think of that?
The only thing I can say is that his mother used to visit the country very often.
Well, that may be a tell then. I guess that's a half answer.
Yeah.
Do you plan to call him and maybe find out?
No. I won't do it. If he wants, he's going to be welcome, but I won't. I think he keeps that to himself, and you have to respect that.
For years, we've heard rumors that...
And go down a little bit, because I think in the comments there was, keep going down to his mother. There you go. And you can play that for a moment.
Oh, okay. I gotta get it ready. I didn't know you were gonna ask me to play it. There we go.
A lot of fun.
What are the happy memories? The ones where you transcended the protocol, where it didn't make any difference? Would Cuba be one?
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about some of the people that you had your paths crossed with. For example,
Can I get a number? Can I get a number? Can I get a number? Every time you see me, she start kissing and biting, fucking or fighting. She wants
Okay, you can hear it there. And it looks like Justin Trudeau is going to visit his father there.
I mean, there is quite a few similarities, actually.
Oh, with that, and the rumors around the relationship that Pierre Trudeau had with his wife as well,
But
they were open.
Again, I just like that there are those rumors
Yeah.
because, again, it does give ammo a little bit at least.
To what?
That it's in his blood.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
from
all
both sides. From
not
both
just
sides.
a little bit. I think everybody knows it at this point. Oh.
Well, maybe Katy Perry can see her future by just looking at what Fidel Castro ended up looking
Third
like.
generation of Castros coming out of Katy Perry.
And her rubbing parts. Okay, let's go into comments or Alberta's Canada.
Let's go to Alberta's Canada. We're going a little long right now.
Yes.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And starting with from Fergus Hodgson saying, quote, what cannot happen will not happen. If incomes and profits are stagnant or declining while taxes, prices, and interest rates rise, people will fail to pay their debts. The key message I would like to convey in this chapter is the severity of Canada's self-inflicted economic rot.
Yeah, and Fergus actually had a great get-together with Keith Wilson as well as
Eva Chipiak.
And we're going to play that, I think, in full on tonight's episode. It was absolutely fantastic. It was about 8 minutes long, but it's talking about getting more of a legitimized wing to the grassroots Alberta independence movement. And I think that's what Keith Wilson is kind of focusing in on right now.
The long-term buildup of urban house prices made people financially vulnerable. Then COVID-19 lockdowns ushered in record business and consumer insolvencies. I sounded the alarm about Canadian indebtedness and insolvencies in early 2019, prior to COVID-19. Since then, the situation has worsened dramatically. A quarter of Canadians fell behind on their bills during the COVID-19 spread, and 1/5 borrowed from family or friends. The key message I would like to convey in this chapter is the severity of Canada's self-inflicted economic rot, of which escalating debts and insolvencies are symptoms. Canada is overtaxed, underhoused, miseducated, and becoming unfriendly to investment. From inflation and deficits to investment and wages, everything that should be up is down, and everything that should be down is up. The long-term buildup of...
Yeah, and everybody can see what's happening in Canada. I mean, now's the time to pull the cord before Alberta becomes Canada and Canada becomes Cuba.
And just being able to see the, for example, debt-to-income ratio and the comparison between the United States and Canada, the housing prices, the comparison between income to housing prices being kind of normal-ish in the US versus what's happening right now in Canada where nobody can afford anything. And being able to bring those points up and show the charts, because they are impactful, especially when you're comparing it to countries like the US, but not even just the US, countries like Mexico, countries that Canada thinks itself, because that's what they were coming out to say during the last USMCA renegotiation talks, that they didn't want to be compared to Mexico, that they were better than Mexico. That's what Ford came out to say.
Yeah, it's now looking like Mexico is having a bright future because even though they have a far left ideologue for a president, she's willing to play ball economically and militarily with Donald Trump. She kind of has to, but so you would say Canada has to as well, yet they're going a different path. So I don't know. I'm actually, we'll leave it there.
Mark Nixon says, quote, Philippe Champagne says, Canada can be an energy superpower and save the entire planet at the same time.
And this is them slow walking towards federalization. They can't just say, we're going to federalize natural resources today. They'll lose their entire voter base. They're trying to say they're doing both at the same time, and eventually it's just federalization.
Don't forget about the second one. Is that why Canadian standard of living has collapsed? Then 2.2 million people are visiting the food banks. Anyone buying the snake oil he is selling? Again, it might be part of the bigger plan to get people used to this idea.
And let's see the Chihuahua in action here.
And we had Fatih Birol, the executive director of the International Energy Agency. They're saying the global energy architecture is being redesigned, and that countries like Canada, who can develop resources responsibly and sustainably, will play a key role both in conventional, renewable, and nuclear. So I think that Canadians understand that you can do both at the same time. You can make sure that we play a key role in terms of energy security with our partners and allies around the world, while at the same time having a very progressive policy when it comes to the environment. Just look at our climate strategy, look at the investment tax credit that we put to support, look at the electricity strategy we just put forward. I think people understand that in this time and age, with all the uncertainty and challenges we're seeing around the world, that Canada is probably the best place in terms of country to be able to do both responsibly, sustainably, and being a key partner in energy security.
And there was one time it was not both, and now they're pitching both. I still remember when this whole green energy hoax started kind of coming up, and now it's been kind of unmasked for what it is. But at that time, it was very similar to what's kind of going on here. They're going to slow march it, but they're going to slow march it with a goal of federalization. And it's both the conservatives and the liberals that are going to want to federalize natural resources.
And being able to start again, that changing, like slow changing of minds, at least within the people that would still vote for them, by saying, oh, but yeah, we can do both. Oh, don't worry that much about the pollution because we're taking care of that, even if they probably are.
Also, it puts more hurdles in the way if there's ever an independence movement in the future after federalization of resources are done, because provinces will be interconnected with their natural resource projects. So it will be impossible to pull out of Canada and maintain any kind of viable GDP.
And lastly, from Juno News, the public safety minister rejected claims Bill C-22 creates backdoors into devices, saying the bill does not allow arbitrary government surveillance. He then accused tech companies of spreading misinformation. This bill needs to happen. And yet, we've gone over the bill. I've gone over the bill when it was first proposed. And yes, it does allow for those backdoors. They're just trying to pretend like it doesn't.
Tech companies want to sell you shit. The government wants to control every aspect of your life. So I'm far more concerned with what the government wants to do than tech companies. Now, I'm concerned with tech companies as well, don't get me wrong. But the country in which you live in, that government has massive mechanisms of control over your life.
And again, this mechanism would allow them to have a backdoor without asking.
backdoors into devices. This is what Apple says. Let me be absolutely clear. There are no backdoors that is available through this bill. What we have said is that anything that may cause systemic vulnerabilities does not have to be applied by an.
And that's obviously a lie if you don't know it at this point, but it's like every time a liberal politician opens his mouth, just take it for a lie at this point.
Individual service provider. I will also say we're living in a world where big tech, whether it is Apple, Google, or the range of other big tech companies, are operating without any type of accountability, without any type of protection of privacy. So when we talk about privacy...
What about the government itself? What about the things that you're trying to implement anyways? And again, yes, they might have less. And the fact that they're trying to blame it all on the tech companies and say, oh, they're also spying on you. Why don't you get mad at them? Because they don't have the ability to go and arrest you arbitrarily and detain you just for things that they see and they find on your phone without your permission.
There's no accountability for the government. We just seen what happened with the gravy plane and
everything else.
The gravy plane is now actually Mark Carney's scandal. It's no longer Doug Ford's because he's buying multiple planes, and the amount of money he's spending on food is absolutely ridiculous. Where's the accountability for that? And that's just something simple. What about the things that have real impacts on people's lives?
Privacy, there's a real conversation to be had as to what that entails. So the companies that are coming forth and talking about privacy protection, talking about vulnerabilities, better step up and provide their path to how they're protecting the privacy rights of Canadians.
Do you believe tech companies are misinforming Canadians on this bill?
I believe there's a number of areas of misinformation. And to be very clear,
she pitched that question perfectly, so she could have that headline. Tech companies are misinforming Canadians about Bill C-22, which is a lie.
Encryption issue is one we will clarify because this bill was never meant to breach encryption. The language is very clear. It's about systemic vulnerabilities. To us, we read that as ensuring that if encryption is breached, then that would not be allowed. So we will clarify it in the bill, and we look forward to working with the opposition on an appropriate language.
You can leave it there, but he said, "Oh, we'll clarify it in the bill." Not that the bill never said that, and that's the thing. There's been a lot of pushback against these censorship bills. The problem is, it doesn't matter how much pushback you have when it's a majority government. I guess he only needed 43% to get that majority government, and now he's saying 50+1 isn't enough.
Again, if that's a majority for him, then maybe we should just advocate for that being a majority for Alberta independence too, because he takes it. He took that majority as a majority.
Let's go into some comments.
The non-majority as a majority. William Rebel says, do you think that Albertans will see these attacks on Danielle Smith as an attack on Alberta at large?
Nobody likes Danielle Smith right now is the thing. The Federalists don't view her as a Federalist. The Independent side definitely knows the knives are out for them and that she posed a non-binding question when it could have been binding. So nobody's really trusting her right now, and she's having a hard time walking that tightrope. She hasn't completely fallen off at this point, but she has some major adjustments to do right now.
Thomas Muse says, every day the movement gets bigger and they can't stop talking about it. So in the meantime, they expose themselves more and more.
Yeah, and again, the more they open their mouth, the more it helps us. This is the exact strategy that helped Brexit break free of the EU.
Especially when they get apoplectic and just start revealing themselves and saying more and more stupid things that go against them and that we can use. Luke Couture says, they're all working to sabotage Alberta and control Smith to get what they want, or should I say not lose the billions of dollars of transfer payments.
Yeah, I already think they have her in her back pocket, to be honest with you.
Yes. Max from Freedom Calendar says, sure think. Also, small PP is not your friend.
No. Pierre Poilievre is nobody's friend at this point. And you can see he wouldn't even let the word Alberta come out of his frickin' mouth.
He's that scared.
He rephrased the question to say, all Canadians, just wait 3 more years. Wait 3 more years. I'll make you some more empty promises. I'll eventually be, I'm the leader in waiting. I'm the prime minister in waiting. Yeah, waiting for Canada to collapse.
Yeah, don't worry. Eventually I'll get you a ring. Luke Couture says, I like the black and gold flag. That could be another option. Miss Altoad says, they say you're a bad person. They'll call you this and that. They'll call you, but they never say why Alberta would be better off stuck with Canada. Yeah. Because it wouldn't. And so they have no real arguments.
Well, you'll never get real communism if you don't stick with Canada.
True, exactly. You'll never get to try it. Granola says, or Granoya, I'm not sure, says, Carney started using the once economy slogan early on. That should have sent flags up, but the Trump medallion hypnotizes Canadians so easily.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Trump's coming for you. It's the biggest threat to us.
I know
Big
a lot
bad
of-
orange man.
I know a lot of people are against it. I'm all for like using the MAGA slogan, "Make Alberta Great Again," just to like literally sit off the elbows up crowd.
Yeah. Troglodyte says the Valuetainment YouTube channel put out a segment on Alberta independence yesterday.
Oh, fantastic! I'll check that out. I used to watch them on a daily basis. I just don't have time these days.
Yeah, we have differences of opinions about it, but it'd be interesting if we can try to get to talk to one of them.
Yeah, I like
about it.
I
If
like
they're already
Valuetainment.
talking about it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're tiny, so but we'll see.
Let's continue on.
Let's go into Alberta and the world. And starting with from J. Xer saying, quote, Lisa Raitt just torched the elite fantasy of Canada joining the EU. On a national panel, she was asked if it would, quote unquote, save us. Her answer, no, I don't think it's good politics either. She nailed it perfectly, saying there are two types of Canadians right now.
Trying to galvanize people in Europe and the leaders of Europe make sense at the same time.
Lisa, last word to you. Is joining the EU going to save us?
No, I don't think it's good politics either. There's two types of Canadians right now, Bashi. It's the Canadians who are very secure. They own a house. They've got a pension. They're doing well. And they can indulge themselves in these kinds of political, fancy kind of thoughts of being part of Europe or doing something different and having a middle power and what it means to the great world. And then there's the other kind of Canadians. It's the Canadians that Minister Salmon was just talking about, the ones that are going to be helped in terms of steel and aluminum tariffs. It's the Canadians who are being laid off right now because companies are closing. It's Canadians who are really worried about the fact that it's $1.78 right now at the gas tank. I don't think talking about Europe and joining Europe is necessarily good politics. There's a lot of fires going on here at home in Canada, and a lot of people are going to be judging him based upon what he's saying in other countries and saying, I don't think he gets it. Like, is he out of touch? That's a very dangerous place for a Mark Carney to be, given his incredible resume.
Yeah, and it's rare you hear that on the mainstream media.
Yeah.
That being said,
Not
I
that
think
last bit, but-
Mark Carney is absolutely in love with the EU. He's going to marry them if he can.
Because again, he was working within that mechanism. He was one of the architects that led to Brexit. He was one of the architects that has led to all of this green policy ridiculousness that the EU has adopted wholeheartedly. And as a central banker that he has been behind closed doors.
What are you talking about? He is. He is the globalist.
But
And
within Europe, I mean.
he is working within the globalist
When he was in
mechanisms. Canada is now the front of the globalist spear right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. But I was saying, like, that's his home. That's
Yeah.
what he's used to. And he wants to just take everyone with him to go back there.
Yeah.
Let's just send him there in his
Well, he's
expensive plane.
not going to try to go back there. He's not going to try to take everybody with him. He's going to try to make Canada part of the EU.
That's what I mean.
And he's going to fund their globalist dreams and their new globalist agenda because they've retooled it, as we heard the Chihuahua say earlier. And it's going to be financed through the federalization of Canadian resources.
But also, Mark Nixon says, quote, Canada is openly moving away from the United States militarily. Great idea. Economically and strategically, while pretending there won't be consequences. You do not antagonize the world's largest superpower and your biggest trading partner at the same time.
From the PM that we will be entering formal negotiations with Saab as the preferred supplier of Canada's future, enabled by Saab's Global Eye. This is a surveillance system. Saab has not signed a contract yet. They're going to work with Canadian authorities. But as has been pointed out, we're not looking towards Boeing. We're talking to Saab. Let's begin there. Your thoughts on this from the Prime Minister this morning?
Well, there are several signals involved in that announcement. One is that we are telling the Americans, keep your stuff. We've been through enough. We're finding other partners around the world for trade generally, and it's going to include the billions upon billions that we're going to be spending on defense. We're going to be looking for other partners. There's something advantageous for Canada here, of course, because the platform is a model of the Bombardier business jet, the long-range one, the 6500, and it's win-win. I mean, it creates jobs here in Canada. It builds up our partnership with Saab. On that last point, there was a question right at the end, and Mr. Carney demurred. He just said, well, I'm not going to talk about that procurement issue right now. But it really does leave open the question whether or not Canada is going to be making a decision to acquire a big chunk of Saab fighter jets instead of going through with the rest of the American jets, the F-35s that we've been talking about.
And let's just piss off the U.S. by not having military contracts with them. You get so much free military security from the U.S., like absolutely ridiculous. Even if it's going to cost you double the amount, you're not spending hardly anything for the amount of security you're going to get from them, economically as well as militarily. And this is another point to sabotaging the USMCA.
Is Saab French or from Denmark or somewhere like on the Netherlands? I think it's French, isn't it?
I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's the car company they're talking about, that's what you're thinking.
What I was thinking.
No, they're talking about
Another one.
No, they're talking about the intelligence agencies and other things as well. That's why they're talking about the Five Eyes. Why is your mouth going like that?
Because I was trying to think, but because they were talking
I'm
about
not sure.
planes.
It could be the car company. I
don't know if
wasn't
the
sure.
car company makes planes. That's
Yeah.
what I was going to ask.
Well, Rolls-Royce makes airplane engines, so
I know that
a lot of car companies do make airplane engines.
Especially lately. Lastly, from Peter St. Ong says, quote, Jeff Bezos goes full Elon, arguing to slash government while ending taxes for everybody under 75,000. It's nice to see billionaires realize that communists are not their friends.
Is the second richest man in the world turning into the next Elon? In an interview last week, Jeff Bezos of Amazon went full populist, arguing to slash government spending, government control, and end all taxes for everybody under $75,000. He praised President Trump as, quote, mature and disciplined, framing support for the president as being, quote, on the side of America, and giving a full-throated endorsement of capitalism versus socialism. Now, Bezos has been moving this direction for a while, and he was rabidly anti-Trump in his first term, but has since warmed not just to Trump, but to populism. He already moved to Florida for the taxes last year. He announced the Washington Post, which he owns, would be henceforth advocating, quote, free markets and individual liberties, as opposed to the communist deep state the Post used to advocate. He infuriated its liberal readers by refusing to endorse anybody in the 2024 election, which his readers read as a rebuke to Kamala. Now, this is all risky in Silicon Valley, where saying nice things about Trump can end your career and certainly ends the dinner party invites, but then being worth $250 billion gives you some leeway. And it matters because Elon Musk has done more than Congress, second only to Trump, for markets and free expression. It'd be splendid to have another cook in that kitchen. Bezos kicked off his interview by correctly noting that we've got two economies. Some call it a K-shaped economy with lots of people doing great, but millions suffering. But the kicker is, unlike socialists who want more government control and more taxes, Bezos wants less. Starting with ending taxes on anybody making less than $75,000 a year, which would cost shockingly little, just 3% of federal revenue. He rejects hiking taxes on billionaires to cover it, as you'd expect, saying the government has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And then the other half, government control and regulations. Bezos cited housing, where federal policy drives up prices with subsidies for mortgages while strangling supply with zoning and building regulations. And education, where he...
And you can leave it there. And Trump is using the business community and protecting the business community and social media platforms as well. Yeah. He's using the Granite Act to push back other countries that are trying to put onerous fines on them to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. But he's trying to protect all of the business community within the United States, so it has a benefit to being in the United States. And he's working that when he's going to negotiate a lot of these deals. When he recently went to China, it had a lot less to do with how the government's going to work together and how the business communities were going to work together.
I was going to say something and now I forgot.
That's all right.
About the business community.
Well, let's go to RUMBLE if we can.
Hold on. Michael Drader says, we're not done. Michael Drader says, we're not MAGA, we're FAFO. Free Alberta from overreach. I like that. Please make a shirt with that. that would be funny, because it's also literally FAFO if you don't leave. Lucature says Canada has already paid for 30 F-35 jets. Yeah, hadn't they paid for the U.S. ones?
That's the thing. They're buying a ton of equipment, but they want to feign like they're not doing any of it. The USMCA is not coming along at this point, and it should be because Mexico is far along in the negotiations. They're in the final stages.
Okay, now we can go to our UMBLE. Thank you so much for all your comments, for all your super chats. Max, happy birthday again. And we'll see you in a bit in Rumblers, the 30-second wait screen. Also, we have Kathy Flatt's interview coming out tonight. We will play the trailer during our 5 p.m. show.
Yeah.
We'll see you over at RUMBLE.